Loki is One Piece's newest giant, and despite his size, the loud booming laugh, and the constant remarks of rage, Loki has potential to be the most tragic character yet. His tale is one of abandonment, disregard, and unbelievable pain. But all that pain got him was the label of the Cursed Prince. Under that rage-filled exterior, Loki has a heart that is broken, and it's exactly what broke that heart and how you responded to it that makes him such a good character. One I can't help but speak about today. I'll be diving deep into the story of Prince Loki, from unfathomable power to unbelievable depths of despair, to finally about how he's going to bring the world to ruin. This is Loki. Thank you for watching, and enjoy. The sky is showered in snow, the ground covered with ice, but Luffy can sense something. The crew has just reached Elbaf, land of giants, and had a rough time in a very weird moment. But now, there's something even worse than the elements out here, and of course Luffy can't help but jump away in search of that feeling. The scene then switches to the other Straw Hats speaking to the giant pirates. Apparently, something big has happened to Elbaf recently. The king had another child, now known as the Accursed Prince. He committed several evil acts, was sentenced to crucifixion, yet escaped. It took all of Elbaf's warriors to get him under control. What this prince had was a desire for a legendary devil fruit, one passed through Elbaf's royal line. He killed his father for it and ate the fruit. The next time that Loki, the Accursed Prince, is unleashed, the world will be brought to ruin. He is the shame of Elbaf. Luffy now faces this man, a giant chained to the biggest tree in the world. Luffy introduces himself, and Loki cackles out. This is Elbaf, a nation of war, and he is the sun god who brings the world to an end. Loki. And what an introduction. Speak of horrific acts, they needed giant warriors to stop, before the reveal of this guy who is bigger than anything we could have imagined. A cackling pink-haired monster of a giant, chained in sea stone to an unfathomable tree. It's scary, it's absolutely horrifying, yet I can't help but be intrigued. Luffy must feel the same, as while Loki continues to yell out that he's the sun god, weird obsession considering he's pretty much right in front of him, Luffy notes that he's chained up, Loki stating it's been 6 years and he hates it, so he'll make a deal with Luffy to get him out. He will eliminate any pirate crew of his choosing if he unbinds him. Though while Loki proposes it as a deal, the reveal of numerous giant beasts imply Luffy has no real choice. Deny him, he gets hurt, but well, Loki has no idea who he's messing with. Things go on to completely shift when Shanks is mentioned. This makes Luffy happy and urges him to ask Loki about it. The giant, seeing an opportunity, grins, calling Shanks a coward. Luffy angers and charges a Gear 4 punch at him. Loki didn't expect the strength. He backs down. Still, Luffy isn't going to get answers just like that. Loki, a clear reference to the Norse god of the same name. A god of mischief, deception, and a figure resembling all-around chaos. In One Piece, we now know he's the Accursed Prince, one who apparently killed his father for a legendary devil fruit. He instantly lies. He is the sun god, when we all know the real sun god is literally in front of him. He even then does a pretty shitty act, intentionally provoking Luffy with the topic of Shanks. All to say, in the story so far, he is just like his Norse counterpart, mischievous and chaos causing. There is without a doubt more to his whole story, as being mischievous and deceitful would imply. But at the moment, due to this connection with a Norse god who is all about chaos, then we're meant to assume Luffy freeing him is not going to be a good thing at all. Not at all. Of course, there's something also to say about how Loki is in the underworld. While of course the underworld is perfect for someone who is big, bad, evil, it's cold, pretty messed up, yeah, Loki fits it. But the underworld is a clear reference to the Norse realm of Niflheim. The entire island of Elbaf is actually a Norse mythology reference. I could low-key make a whole deep dive on Elbaf's connections to Norse mythology, but that's if you guys want to see that. Regardless, Norse Loki has connections to the underworld. as his daughter was cast into this world in legend. While it's not one-to-one, I think Loki being cast here and sealed away here, I think it's a connection Oda's trying to make. Loki from One Piece, Loki from Norse mythology. Point is, the symbolism and connections are only really just beginning. Away from Loki and swept into the other whims of Elbaf, our sights of Loki become sporadic. First, we watch Luffy recall the last thing he spoke to Loki about, that being, he better not tell anyone they met. Yeah, Loki, you want to keep this a secret? That doesn't seem like something a good guy would do. Throughout the trip around Elbaf, we also begin to hear about how it's changed as a nation. It's a lot more peaceful than it used to be, and it's all thanks to a King Harold. He tried to reform the country but was killed by his son, Loki, before his dreams could be realized. Therefore, Loki didn't get given the throne. Again, Loki, you don't seem like a very good guy. Obviously, killing a parent should never even be thought of, but his father sounded like an especially good guy, so it's even worse. Meanwhile, Loki speaks on a transponder snail. Whoever's on the other side, they're very friendly with him, comfortably speaking about a traumatic experience. Weirdly enough, Loki states it hurt him to hear. Even though they've never met, they've been long friends. Odd. But of course, Loki then has to be Loki. He would have killed them all. This Shaggy is weak, and so Shaggy responds with a simple line. Those fearsome words, they hide his kindness. A line that just sets Loki off. Loki is speaking to a mysterious someone on a transponder snail. And despite this being surprising in itself, what is even weirder is that this being humanizes Loki, saying he hides his kindness with his fearsomeness. A pretty big contrast, as this is definitely not something we've seen. But who is this mysterious Shaggy? Well, it's actually kinda obvious if you think about it. It's likely Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess. Not only is she a bit quiet here and even asking Loki to quiet down, the personality matches, but the situation she's recently been in make this connection make perfect sense. Like Loki is currently, Shirahoshi up till recently has been locked up and confined. Her circumstances were far different than Loki's, but the point still stands. Any connection in this situation must be a godsend. They also speak of a recent traumatic situation, one that lines up perfectly with an event Shirahoshi recently went through, where terrible celestial dragons tried to catch her and, well, use her as a servant. Also, one of Loki's character gags is that he just sucks with names. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he called Luffy, like, I do think it's Rogi or something. He called him something dumb. Shaggy could easily be referring to a nickname like Shira, Shiri, something like that, just Loki messing it up. Though I think this theory not only makes sense, but would be very heartwarming. Shirahoshi is one of the most innocent One Piece characters. I imagine her kindness would be able to bring down even the giant Loki. But yeah, I do think that Shaggy is her, and we also get something pretty cool down the line that almost confirms this. From an old castle, black sparks ring out. Two figures have arrived to Elbaf. These figures quickly make their way through the country with the goal to find Loki, even going as far as herding giants to gain info. When they find him, they make their objective clear. They want him to join the world government as a holy knight, an offer he of course turns down. Even when they attack the beasts in the underworld, Loki denies them. He states he'll be sad if they pass, but a warrior doesn't whine about death. Instead, he'll feed on the rage and bring the world to ruin. They turn their attacks onto Loki with this. Still, he keeps it together, leading the Holy Knights to reconsider their plan, as no matter what, they want the giants under control of the world government. Loki then notices Shamrock's resemblance to Shanks, provoking the knight to attack him once again, spearing the giant with numerous swords, all as they leave and ready for their grand plan to bring the country under control. If their grand goal is to bring Elbaf under their control, going to Loki first makes sense. After all, he's not only the prince, but recall he ate a legendary devil fruit. Whatever its power is, the government likely wants it if it's branded as legendary. It's legendary for a reason. But around this time, we get a few random mentions of Loki and his talks, specifically about how Elbaf, and in turn Loki, view the sun god Nika. The world has been destroyed twice. In each case, Nika is present. Is he a hero or a destroyer? Whenever he appears, the world is guaranteed to change, and so those without hope wish for him to appear. The giants go on to say everyone idolizes Nika, explaining why Loki does. He wants to be him. Nika is a being who changes the world through destruction. Luffy then asks a hilarious question: is Loki a good guy? Leading to an explosion. He was prophesied to kill his father before even being born, and when he was born, numerous disasters followed. Elbaf's legendary warrior was killed, the country was hit by numerous disasters, and the queen soon died. Not to mention, Loki himself was a prankster and chaos causer, all culminating in him murdering his own father in his own castle. His father, who was trying so hard to connect Elbaf to the rest of the world. We're then told Loki went on a rampage. One Shanks stopped himself. But despite all this, Luffy wants to free the giant. And just like always in One Piece, Luffy seems to see something we cannot see. Or maybe it was just the fact that Loki mentioned Shanks. Honestly, who knows? And I think I'm going to take this hat off. It's kind of uncomfortable. Okay, that is better. This is a lot more cozy. But regardless, everything we know about Loki is pretty in line with the Norse counterpart. We're meant to believe that he is a Norse god of trickery and deceit. Everything we're told reflects this perfectly. But even then, Oda intentionally gives us hints to show Loki might be a bit kind underneath all the roughness. Like what the person on the transponder snail said, Loki's fearsomeness is a cover for kindness. And we also just saw Loki, it was a small detail, but he said he would be sad to see death. Both weird things to note from this guy. These are all things that swirl around Luffy's weird feeling for Loki, that he indeed doesn't seem to be that bad of a guy to Luffy. And considering Luffy normally has a pretty good sense when it comes to people, it makes you think that maybe Loki's rage could be another point of deceit. Also Shanks. Yeah, it would be wrong if I didn't address this. Loki doesn't like him, not one bit. And well, if he stopped a rampage and helped chain him to the tree, I wouldn't like Shanks either. I really do hope we get to see this scene eventually though, because I can't imagine Shanks would be able to chain this dude up alone. From here, Luffy obtains Loki's key, returning to him bloodied and out cold. Regardless, he undoes some of his shackles. It's then Harudin appears from the skies, Loki's brother, instantly telling Luffy that he can't trust Loki. He is every type of evil possible, a true enemy of the world. But it's too late. Loki stands up right before all of them, a huge smile on his face. In his hands, Loki holds Ragnir, a huge hammer he uses to threaten them, demanding they undo the final cuff. He isn't playing either, as he swings it and electricity visible for miles appears. He can truly destroy all if he desires. Nobody can take the hammer from him either. Ragnar is only liftable by him. And so, with clear destruction and non-stop threats, Luffy jumps in to fight. But Loki falls. It was all a bluff. He indeed was beyond injured. Luffy begs for Loki to be saved, and he is. Then coming to the topic of heritage. Loki is ancient giant blood, hence the horns and size. They're just like his father Harold. Hearing this name leads Harudin to recall scenes of abuse at the hands of Loki, telling us their childhood wasn't sweet, all before he raises an axe, intending to do harm to his brother. Yet Loki speaks. With the shaky and weak voice he tells him to do it. They say he killed their father with pure murder in his heart, but he doesn't believe that, right? As if this isn't a crazy thing, to imply that the biggest truth we've heard of this giant might be untrue. Maybe he didn't actually murder his father for a bad reason. We then switch to a whole different conversation, because of course we do. But alas, Luffy gives Loki food as he follows up on the Shanks question, saying he understands what it's like to idolize someone, telling how he felt the same about a specific being, but goes no further than saying he was born in the wrong era. And besides Luffy just having a good feeling about Loki, the parallel between their childhoods is what brings Loki to importance to us. In the same way Luffy felt for Shanks and he inspired him, Loki had some mystery pirate do the same. While right now I'm not going to say much, as of course we'll be talking about this, it adds another layer as to why Luffy feels strongly towards Loki. They have this odd bond and similarity despite being from different sides of the world. But from here, it becomes clear that the Holy Knights that came to Loki before, they won't stop at no dirty trick to lure the giants into fighting for them, as a grand war is coming soon, and without a doubt the giants will have the biggest impact. It becomes clear everyone needs to help, Loki expressing an interest in fighting for his homeland, yet Hardin denies him. He's already betrayed Elbaf before, how can he be trusted now? And hearing about how much everyone dislikes Loki, Luffy jumps up. He wants Loki to join his crew. Though while trusting of Luffy, Hardin refuses him, but Gaban says otherwise. He bats for Loki. Despite his crimes, he implies there's a whole truth to Loki we haven't heard yet, and so, he asks Loki to tell it all. Loki stumbles over his words as he thinks of that event, laying back and covering his face as he calls it a horrible day, beginning our backstory into this cackling, deceitful giant prince. To understand Loki and his future actions, we must go way back, and I mean way back. 109 years ago, King Harold was way different than what we've heard, a chaos-causing giant who roamed the seas with destruction. But this all changed when he met Ida. Ida would single-handedly change Harold, showing him that his size isn't to destroy, but to build. And build relationships he did. King Harold began a quest to change Elbaf from a war-central nation to a more peaceful one. At the same time, his relationship with Ida deepened. The two of them eventually had a child, that being Hardin. Though sadly, due to Elbaf customs, Harold would be unable to marry Ida, and end up having another child with the pre-chosen woman from Elbaf. The child he had with this woman was of course Loki, and was born while Harold was away. Yet when the queen saw the child, she screeched in horror. Loki's first grasp in life was empty. His mother nor father were there. Even worse, the queen went on to deny his existence completely, going as far as dropping him into the underworld, an act intended to kill him. Yet he survived. Loki's curse began at his birth, a prophecy stating he would kill his father. He was born to empty air and hatred, and as he grew, countless misfortunes, including the queen's death, fell upon Elbaf. This is what they define as Loki's curse. Of course, I had to note Loki's eyes. They're the thing that made his mother see him as this curse. She was utterly horrified of them. It's also good to note in the present, Loki still covers his eyes. This is likely a result of, well, being insecure about them, as it's never been indicated that his eyes are actually, messed up in a way that causes harm. It's likely his eyes were a simple omen to what becomes of him and his later devil fruit, which you'll understand when you see it. Though a very sad idea is created when I said as before, his eyes likely have nothing wrong with them. It's just the way they got him treated that makes him incredibly insecure about them. But back to Harold, where was he during all of this? Harold was not absent, and Harold never hated any of his family. He took a queen because there was simply no other way to continue the ancient giant bloodline. Harold would visit Ida and Hardin often, though sadly due to Ida not being from Elbaf, many looked down on this, but Harold would defend this with his life. It's also even shown that as soon as he heard Loki was born and his country was struggling, he went to each country he had allied with and asked for help. Finally, when he saw his son, he held the boy up proud, though sadly, it was just too late. Loki, despite being a baby, had already given up on love. My point of explaining Harold to such a degree was to not only explain and help you understand what comes next, but to say he was a good person. Harold wasn't a good person actually, he was a great person. Everything he ever did was for the sake of his country, to change the entire world's view on his country. He did literally anything he could, but I have to say, this was somewhat to a fault. The obvious is presented right away. He is so focused on this goal that he is not very good with paying attention to Loki. I wouldn't say neglectful, but he's not the most present father, it would seem. While yes, he was there, and while yes, when he was there, he was loving, when he wasn't, Loki was completely alone. Loki didn't even have a mother, while his brother Harding had a mother, and she was a great mother. And even though they did struggle due to their status, they had a unit, they had a family unit that stuck together, while Loki, point is, had nothing. This type of thing does affect children, and while yes, on the other hand, I understand Harold couldn't avoid what he was doing, I think you can also argue that he could have been there a bit more for Loki, and it would have helped him a lot. Hell, he never even questions what's up with Loki's eyes when he gets back, like the doctor says it and he's just kind of like, oh okay, it's my son. I don't know, if I care about something so much, I'm gonna be concerned about its eyes. Giants live in the One Piece world for about 300 years. If Harold would have slowed down and paid more attention to things near him, rather than just the whole world, then I think things would be rather different. Not just for Harold, but especially for Loki. Harold continued to push Elbaf to new heights as Loki was cast off to very questionable family, and Ida and Harding were left together. With time, Harold's boys grew. Loki would become mischievous and destructive, while Harding would deal with bullying, not only for his status, but even from his brother Loki. Loki is a classic case of hurt people. He bullied his brother because he was a brother who had the love he wanted. His mother was still around and perhaps honestly the most loving person ever, so precious that Harold had a child with her outside of royalty. This is while Loki's mother never loved him, tried to kill him, and passed away as she gave him the mantle of being cursed. The narrator says it best. No matter how much he harmed and destroyed, Loki could never fill the hole at the center of his being. Yet it's then a very important figure appeared to Loki, Rox D. Zebek, the man who would go on to call this era of pirating his own. He instantly treats Loki pretty trash, barking orders and hitting Loki with the force of a cannonball to get what he wants. Despite this, Loki would come to admire this man, crying tears of happiness for his presence. While Luffy had Shanks, Loki had Rox, both figures who impacted their lives significantly. And while at first it seems kind of odd, I think it makes perfect sense for Loki to admire Rox. Rox was this pirate with the grand goal of making the world his own, and the way he did it wasn't with scheming, it wasn't just trickery. No, it was going out and getting it himself. It was bending the world to his power. Rox to Loki appeared as a being who needed nothing but himself at the end of the day. He was free and used that free will to take what he wanted with no care in the world. To a boy who obviously felt wronged by this now peaceful land, felt wronged by the ones meant to love him, and one who wanted to use destruction as an outlet, was just angry. Of course Rox, the epitome of everything he wanted, would inspire him. The narrator literally said he saved Loki's outlook on life. Though it's not just this, I think you can say Rox was the first being to treat Loki with proper respect. While a lot of people call Rox horrible for this scene, and yes, it's horrible, I also think it's rather misunderstood in what it's trying to say and what the point is. We see Loki asked to come with Rox. Rox calls him a whelp, and so Loki challenges Rox before we see a bloodied Loki. Rox did this, it is clear, but people skip over the fact that Loki challenged Rox. While yes, of course Rox should have just said no, he should have known he was gonna hurt and bloody the boy, he's horrible for even taking this challenge. I think the point of this scene though, is that he gave him the respect of a proper challenge. Let's think about Loki for a second. Everyone skirts around him because he's huge, he's this prince, and he's this royal figure. And if they don't do that, they talk bad about him because he's cursed. He's this cursed child. Nobody treats him like an actual person, but Rox did. He gave him a challenge. Think of how important that feeling must be to Loki, especially as a kid trying to be accepted. This is probably the best moment that paints the best picture as to why Loki admired Rox. And to put the cherry on top of this point, when Rox died, Loki was crushed. All he could think about was when he tried to join his crew. Following Rox was his dream. And the why? Well, he thought he was Nika, the warrior of liberation who laughs as he tears down the world. It's like Luffy and Loki have all the puzzle pieces needed for this bond we've started to see, where Luffy sees nothing wrong with Loki and treats him as if he was any other. just like we seen Rox did with the same Loki. Not to mention, all the kids in Elbaf believe in Nika, the warrior who will laugh as he brings forth the end of the world. A pretty big reason Loki liked Rox, as he thought this being was Rox. He thought he was him because of his go out and get it attitude. Considering that Luffy is Nika, and well, Rox in a lot of ways is pretty similar to Luffy, Luffy and Loki not only have these parallels, but they have a good reason to become close. I can't help but say it's almost as if they were destined to meet. While Loki looked up to Rox, Harold was a great friend of his, though turned his back in favor of his quest for peace. And since Rox passed, Harold decided he can no longer pull any punches. He must go all in. With this, he looked to both of his sons, told them to work together, and sailed towards Navy HQ, serving as their tool till he was finally granted access to the Holy Land. Side note, around here we get a glimpse of Harold visiting Fishman Kingdom, where he spoke to Neptune. About what, you ask? Well, of course his daughter Shirahoshi being born soon, even joking Loki should marry her. So yeah, that's where the theory comes from, pretty cool. Though around this time, tragedy would strike Elbaf. We return for the first time in ages. Ida has grown sick, though this doesn't stop her. She's committed to running her bar to help Harold. Loki has also gotten pretty close to her. He hangs out around her bar while Hardin searches overseas for a doctor. They show love in their own unique ways. Yet it's then the social conflict of Elbaf catches up. There are people who still consider Ida wrong. They have their delusional ideas about this woman who has done literally nothing to them. It's sick. Yet it's finally revealed that sickness she's had, it's because these sick people have been poisoning her. Despite these acts, despite the big reveal, Ida stated that blood doesn't matter to her. Loki is her sweet dear boy. Just like Hardin. She never cared about the specifics. She loves them both. Always has and always will. Before her death, Loki went on a rampage. He remembers everything his real mother did. She was horrible, and now for some trivial matter, they've killed his true mother. The only mother he ever had. In her final moments next to Harold, she couldn't help but say Loki has always been Hardin's little brother to her. Loki has always been her own child in her heart. She passes, and even Loki, this giant mighty warrior, is upset. The world wronged Ida. She truly did nothing wrong but try and help her husband, well, should have been husband, Harold, in the best way possible, owning a little bar on the quiet shores of Elbaf. Despite this whirlwind around her, her priority was always her children. Her two sons, even Loki, who wasn't hers by blood. She was amazing, and I think it shows a lot that even Loki came to see that despite his rage. The best way I can think to describe Loki's familial structure is a lot of jealousy. A child will always feel more connected to their mother. Their mother literally birthed them. But for Loki, his mother not only despised him, but she died soon after his birth. Though his younger brother Hardin got the one thing he was missing, love from a mother. Of course, Loki would be jealous and take it out on him, as cruel as that sounds. That's just how kids are. While their relationship as brothers was never perfect, Ida didn't care and treated Loki as her son. And you can see by the rampage Loki went on, he valued that. She was his only mother. This also brings a whole different light to a lot of things we've heard. All those events surrounding Loki's birth. Well, obviously he had nothing to do with his mother's death and bad weather. The tricks and chaos he caused as a kid, well, he was lashing out because he felt nothing and nobody cared to see that. The rampage, well, this one's pretty obvious. They harmed and hated one person who didn't deserve it, going as far as killing her. Loki so far isn't cursed because he's this horrible being. He's cursed because they didn't really try to ever see him as a proper being, one like them. But now we're only just missing the final act. The murder. How they all say Loki deceitfully killed his father, Harold. Harold joined the Knights of God, being branded with the covenant that would allow Imu to control him and see everything through his eyes if he so wanted. Harold took this brand in hopes his country would finally be counted among the others. It would be the final step to no longer being known as a warring country, rather just another peaceful nation, one that has giant people. But the point was that it would birth a whole new era for his people. Though of course, this means nothing to Imu. Imu is king of the world, and that idea of heralds isn't all powerful to him. And so with Herald under his control, he demands he create a fleet of warriors strong enough to rival the navy. All along, Imu just wanted Elbaf under his control. Herald instantly refuses, and so Imu exacts his power and begins to take over, this culminating in Herald demanding Loki come. Loki rushes in and finds his father resisting the control. He tells Loki the whole truth, and with that, he asks for Elbaf's treasure to be fed to Loki. He wants his son to eat the fruit, take the throne, and kill him. Become a hero and call him a fool of a king. His reputation means nothing compared to Elbaf's future. Herald was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. He will die by his own son's hand, a villain, to keep his country peaceful and away from war. Loki, understanding this, understanding how important this is to his father, runs to eat the treasured fruit, but a hammer attacks him? Ragnir in reality is a hammer that has ate a squirrel devil fruit, and the point of this hammer is that it acts kinda as a test. The hammer has to choose you to access the treasure, and it has chosen Loki. With the sudden clash, Loki defeats his father. Knowing his fate, Herald tells Loki to finish it, also saying he knows Loki will do great as king, to get along with his brother. He tells him burning down villages won't bring Ida back, but he's happy he felt that strongly about her. And lastly, well, he loves him, he loves his son. And so it's time. With the swing of a hammer, Herald falls. Loki breaks down in tears, and all that's left is a hope for Elbaf's future. Loki knows that Herald's death will cause problems, yet instead of telling the people what Herald said to do, he pushes for the opposite. He wants to be blamed. He knows he could never be the king his father was. And he knows the people already don't love him. But he can do something else. He'll take his powers and avenge his father. We return to the present. Loki's brother, who wasn't there when it happened, now knows the truth. Loki stating he couldn't become king and celebrate his father as some kind of a villain. It would have only caused chaos. His brother unbinds his chains, acknowledging that he indeed can fight for Elbaf's sake. While he doesn't say sorry for believing he was a murderer in words, unbinding him is his way. Actions speak louder than words, and he has accepted his brother's greatest sin and forgives it. So now, together they can fight. They can fight for Elbaf. Loki is the Norse Loki. He is the great god of deception. But his biggest act of deceit wasn't killing his father to take a legendary devil fruit. It was killing his father and taking the blame for everything so his father's name wouldn't be dragged through the mud. He let himself be painted as a villain, deceitfully lying to the whole island of Elbaf just so his father wouldn't be seen as a villain. I love this twist so much because everything was built towards Loki being this big bad villain who defies everything. He shows no redeeming qualities besides being cool, and he's a being you truly have no hope for despite him looking cool. But in ode of fashion, of course there is a sad truth behind it. While I expected him ruthlessly killing his father in just pure murder to be a lie, I honestly didn't expect such a messed up, heartbreaking tale alongside it. It paints Loki as such a pained figure, and it makes it all the more awing that despite this incredible pain, despite these horrible circumstances, he didn't choose himself. He let himself become the villain to save his father. But I think a lot of Loki's greatest crimes, you can look at them all very differently now that we have this backstory. Like I kinda said before, Loki being cursed is kind of hard to think about him literally being cursed. Loki doesn't seem to be this object of havoc sent to ruin them all. Rather, the things that brought him the curse label seem to be a result of everything around him. Loki was branded a monster because he would act out. He was branded a monster because of the rampages he went through Elbaf, and he was of course branded a monster because of what he did to his father. But all of those things were a product of others. Loki wasn't loved properly as a child at all. Of course he's going to act out. The people treated his mother horribly for no reason other than ancient traditions. Of course, he's going to get mad and lash out. And when they kill her, he's going to be angry enough to rampage. Finally, we all saw what happened with his father. There was no other way out. Loki had to do it, and if anything, he indeed took the noble outcome from that scenario. Loki the Accursed Prince? No, we can't even begin to say that anymore, and that's the point. Loki, now unshackled, showcases his awing power instantly. With this, in an effort to push people to fight back against the chaos, the truth is told to the people of Elbaf. Loki is innocent. The world government tried to take advantage of their people and are now doing it again. So fight back. Protect the peace of Elbaf. The ground is then covered in lightning and snow, and at the same time, the ground begins to rumble. It's Loki. Loki is in his legendary devil fruit form, and the sun god Luffy has appeared atop him. The beast spans the island. It's by far the biggest devil fruit we've ever seen. It's like 10 times the size of normal Loki. And as Loki grumbles out with fire in his eyes, it's explained what this form even is. It is the full zone form of the Dragon model Needhogger fruit. Whoever eats it transforms into the largest beast in the world. It also corresponds with who eats it, so Loki being an ancient giant, an already huge form of giant, well, he will become an even bigger Needhogger. We also learn about Ragnir, the Squirrel Hammer. Elbaf has a legend about a warrior who turned into an enormous dragon to face the sun god. He fought alongside an ice squirrel known as Ratatoskr. Without its master, the squirrel chose to inhabit the hammer protecting the fruit, awaiting for a worthy owner to return. Loki is the one deemed worthy, now riding over the lands with a cloud of snow and a shock of thunder, all before releasing a beam that could likely destroy an entire island. It is such a crazy power, Emu, king of the world, is noted to need it and fear it in some way. It's likely this is why he's been so focused on Elbaf. This truly is a power that could threaten anything. Loki continues to decimate everything, creating chaos as he pushes away Elbaf's threats with ease. Yet they then become aware of an immense haki. Luffy and Loki stand before Emu's current controlled vessel, him saying, "Nika, Needhogger." They will be part of a battle that will divide this world. And oh boy, this is actually my favorite part of Loki, his devil fruit, Needhogger. Needhogger is a direct take from Norse mythology. The serpent-like dragon sits at the bottom of the world tree, constantly gnawing on its roots. This dragon is meant to resemble all-out chaos, as obviously it's constantly eating and chewing on the world, so when you actually see this dragon, well, it means something's wrong with the world, it's about to end. This event, the world ending as they know it, in Norse mythology, it is called Ragnarok. If only there was a big world event in One Piece that is slowly ending its world. Like it, I don't know, sinking. Yeah, the world is sinking as we all know. This alongside Emu's own actions? Well, it's really starting to sound a lot like that Ragnarok. And I do want to clarify that Loki bringing Ragnarok, I think it means that the current rule of the world is going to end. Emu is king of the world. He is a ruler with brutal control, and destroying the world means destroying the messed up world he built, so the people of the One Piece world can start anew. Basically, ending the world means ending Emu's reign, at least that's what I believe. This transforms Loki's role into a whole different thing, as now he signifies Ragnarok, the end of the world. You can understand with this why Emu wanted Loki and the giants on his side. They will play a crucial role in the final war, and their treasure is likely the sign of the end. It is said in many Norse tales that Needhogger survives Ragnarok, gliding over the battlefield to continue the cycle of eating the world tree roots once again till Ragnarok's ready to happen again. This goes perfectly with the idea in One Piece, destroying the world / ending Emu's reign. It's also pretty in line with One Piece's idea of devil fruits. Also, again, history repeating itself in One Piece is such a commonplace. Luffy is literally the main character and he's a prime example of history repeating itself. You take this with the info we now were given, where Loki's fruit kind of had to choose the right person. Well, you could say it is fate sought time for Needhogger, the symbolization of Ragnarok, to appear again, signaling the final war. This tie-in with mythology just makes Loki so cool to me. alongside it just being this really cool, insane dragon. I also have to say, Loki again wasn't being deceitful in his idea that he would end the world. He kept saying that, he kept saying he'd bring it to ruin. Well, that's actually true. He wasn't lying. Well, he seemed evil before, and it made sense with all this deceit. In a way, even this thing wasn't a lie. Narratively, Loki very well, and I imagine he will, bring the world to ruin. But I doubt he actually knew that. I think he was just saying that. Loki and Luffy fight Imu's vessel. Imu revealing that Loki was that giant being attacking government ships way back. You know, following in the footsteps of rocks. Imu then tries to control Luffy and Loki. It doesn't work. At this moment, we don't have an explanation as to why, but it very well could be these fruits counter Imu's power in some weird way. But with this, Loki transforms back into his human form and seals the vessel in a block of ice, beating her completely. Though while they assume the situation is over, Loki turns to eating frozen food cause why not? Well, it's actually not over. Imu appears personally from the ruins of the royal castle. In an instant, this godly being is desecrating Elbaf, covering the realm in black flames, and severing any limbs that touch him, all before he stands to Loki. He searches for he who killed Harold, his faithful servant. Loki stands tall. Harold was his father, not his servant, and he is the one Imu searches for. As of most recently, Loki is just as destructive as before, dealing with Imu partially while everyone else was blown away by him. Just gotta say it too, the way this battle is being drawn is just beautiful so far. There's a lot of effort into making their powers seem equal, as Imu is terrifying, but with every hit he takes, Loki gets up. To me at least, it really feels like if his role is to destroy the world Imu has created, then Oda is doing an extremely good job to show Loki won't bow to Imu at all. Genuinely one of the coolest battles is beginning right here. It's also going to be likely one of the most important battles, so at the same time, there's a lot of possibility for tragedy. Will Loki be beaten by Imu? Is Imu going to face some sort of limit and have to leave? Or could this be where the final war kicks off? We have no idea, but I just can't come to the conclusion things are going to be fine for Loki. This is king of the world. Even this giant Loki is not going to just walk away untouched. This leads to the obvious question, what comes next? And since it relates, I want to answer a question a lot of people keep asking about Loki. That being, well, do we think he's going to join the crew? Luffy tells Loki to join his crew pretty quickly. He believes that strongly in this man, that he truly belongs among the Straw Hats. Though of course Zoro and Sanji propose the biggest issues. How the hell is he gonna fit on the ship, and no way ever are they gonna have enough food. But Luffy states Elbaf is against him, and he thinks it would be fun to sail with him. Now one thing I love about Luffy is that despite him being rather dumb, he has insanely good people skills. He is so good at feeling out what people mean despite what they say. And in this moment, he felt like Loki would fit right in. That says a lot to me, but it also doesn't because Luffy kinda has a lot of moments like this. But still, I can't help but feel like there are clear and intentional parallels between the first and what would be the last member of the crew, Loki and Zoro. Remember, Luffy indeed did say he wants 10 crew members, and Loki would be the 10th if he joined. I just think there being a clear tie between first and 10th, the last, would be perfect. Zoro and Loki were both found tied up and robbed of their freedom, both of which Luffy freed. They also both have some more horrific sounding monikers, Zoro being the King of Hell and Loki being the Accursed Prince. Lastly, they literally give Luffy the same deal if he frees him. Loki and Zoro both state they'd hunt someone down for Luffy if they were freed. They are pretty intentional parallels if you ask me. You put it all in front of you, it seems pretty intentional. I also want to say since Luffy is the sun god Nika, and that being seems to resemble freedom and the sort, well, Luffy is likely going to free the world in some way. Him having Loki by his side, this being who represents ending the world, and then flying forward as a new one begins, well, it would be a pretty perfect duo. Luffy, the one who was meant to free all, rides upon the one meant to end all and signal a new beginning, and so they ride forward into the new day. But I personally will always be a Vivi stan. I want her to come back, fulfill her spot in the crew. Screw Loki, go away, that's Vivi's spot. Okay, but in all seriousness, I think it just makes a lot more sense. Loki joins the Grand Fleet. It would not only solve the boat issue, but it wouldn't disturb any of the power balance already on the ship. Also, maybe I'm tripping to say this, but I feel like if Loki joined the crew, it would kinda take away from Usopp as a character. What is the point of being a proud warrior like the ones in Elbaf if there's already one on the crew? I think just putting Loki in the fleet or having something else happen to him solves a lot of issues him joining the crew would create. Regardless of everything though, Loki's tale is coming to its most important part so far. He began with the most tragic childhood imaginable. He went on to have the results of that childhood consume him as an adult, him being branded a parent killer. But now he's free, the truth is revealed, and he faces the one who inflicted the worst pain of all upon him, Emu. Loki himself is a sign of the end. Him taking the battle against the current king of the world represents Ragnarok, the event that is assumingly going to end the current world of One Piece. Giants are continuously stated to be major to this story's endgame, and Loki has their legendary treasure. Loki is going to be essential into beating Emu and the world of control he's built, all before gliding over the destruction and signaling a new world. It's perfect too, as with such an achievement, I think Loki would finally be ready to take the crown alongside his brother, just like his father wanted. This would not only fulfill his wish of them getting along, but it would also mean Elbaf is truly peaceful. There's no way Emu could interfere any longer thanks to Loki. And you know, regardless of what people think, you can't call Loki cursed at that point, so I think the people would love him. But with that, I imagine this video is going to be outdated pretty fast. Hopefully not that much changes with Loki, but it's going to. I don't even know why I'm saying that, but maybe, who knows. I just hope nothing crazy happens and Loki's twist takes a turn and I have to re-release this video with the big update. That would kind of suck. But as for now, that has been my guess for what happens to Loki, what his role is going to be, and a deep explanation into his story and whatnot. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the One Piece videos. And of course, I'll see you next time. Bye.